Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny here with my beloved for our September porch chat with viewer question and answers. So this is kind of a recap first of what August was for us. It was a very busy month, and then we're going to jump into questions that you, the viewers, submitted to us in one of our most recent videos. So you want to recap August and...
August, traveling, July, it was crazy.
Was crazy.
Yeah, August, lots of traveling to the owners of Proven Winners, the two partners at Pleasant View and 4-Star, off to the
west side of the Michigan.
West side of Michigan, you know, to see Spring Meadow and Walters. It was fast and furious 3 nights. Yeah, 3 nights.
That one was. So 1 week was New Hampshire for Pleasant View Gardens. That's one set of owners that they do all the annual production. And the other owner with the annual production also is 4-Star. So we did that the next week along with, because they're all in Michigan, with Spring Meadow and Walters Gardens, just on the other side of the state. And so we went to go visit them. We were there a little bit longer and had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Did lots of videos. We did a video for every garden center nursery that we went to, rather. And so you can check those out, of course.
Yeah, a lot of folks like watching the garden tour videos.
Right. So we will link that in the video description so you can check those out there so you don't miss anything.
Then August here at the nursery has been nice and steady. Lots of visitors from out of state coming in and seeing us while they were traveling on vacation. It was a very enjoyable time with a lot of folks here. Enjoyed meeting everyone. We're looking forward to cooler weather here, hopefully through September, getting ready for our mum sales and different other shrubs. It's a great time to plant right now in North Carolina because it's kind of the start of a planting season for us. We're out of the heat.
Don't get into it too much. We got questions on this stuff.
We got questions on this stuff?
Don't get ahead of yourself now, brother.
I just start going off.
He does. He does. He's just eager. So, speaking of questions, let's just get right on into it. All right. From Vicky. Hi, Jenny and Jerry. My question is, do you recommend a weed barrier under your mulch?
No.
Why not?
It projects that it's a weed-free option in your garden, right? Or to prevent weeds or to, you know, give you relief. So number one, it doesn't do that at all. So, and then number two, it prevents whatever organic matter that you're putting on your bed, whether it's mulch or pine needles, of breaking down and giving you compost, or you're enriching your soil. So you just, what you did there with the plastic weed barrier or the fabric weed barrier, you have just now prevented any kind of organic matter making its way into the soil and feeding the soil. So then you're left with having to feed it all yourself through that little bitty hole that you may have cut, and then all that organic matter that's now on top of the plastic is a wonderful bed for weeds.
Right. So we have been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, don't want to go back there ever again.
Yeah, I will refuse to do it in landscape jobs.
Right. We speak passionately about this because we have seen firsthand in our own garden what a disaster the weed barrier is, because you may have a very, very, very small window where you're not going to have any weeds, but the downfall of all that far outweighs any kind of short window where you may have...
It kills off like the seeds or invasive type weeds that may be there. It eventually kills those off. But you're going to have to, if you put it down, you're going to have to eventually go back and take it all out. And then you got all your plants in there, and you've got mulch in there, and you got topsoil on there because it eventually turns into topsoil. The only time that you ever use a weed barrier like that, and I don't even call it a weed barrier, I just call it landscape fabric, is under very fine gravel like you've seen Jenny do at the garden boxes, because it's just keeping that fine stuff out of the red dirt that we have.
But even then, I still get weeds all the time in that. So up at my garden boxes, it's above the cottage garden. We have 5 garden boxes with really fine decorative gravel. We did put landscape fabric down on that because, of course, we have our lovely red clay that turns into red clay soup, and we don't want those rocks to get lost down into that red clay. So we had the landscape fabric to prevent the rocks from going down in there, but I still fight weeds all the time, even just in that. So, no. Do a nice thick layer of mulch, like a 3-inch layer of mulch in your bed, and that is one of the best ways to prevent weeds. You're gonna get weeds. We live in a fallen world. You're gonna have weeds, but when you have that nice thick mulch, it's much easier. They'll just almost like practically slide out of the ground, and they are more delayed.
You just need to get a schedule of checking. You need to be gardening. Gardening means you're going out and being in the garden and checking on the garden, the plants.
Just doing a walkthrough. When your weeds are this big, just pull them. When they're little, that's what we try to teach our kids and the folks that work at the nursery, is better to pull them when they're little tiny things than then when they're, as big as you are, because some of them will get that size.
Life happens.
All right. The next question is from Miss Linda. Why do you think the landscape lighting installation failed?
Oh, it's me again, huh?
Well, I can answer it, but if you want to
Yeah,
answer
well, it failed.
We know what happened.
Yeah, we know what happened after we got to analyzing the situation. We did a test. My friend Josh brought down his little meter, and we could find we had an open circuit, which means it was the ground. There were wires touching one another. So what had happened was that we had put in a very large stone that rubbed the wire underneath the metal, and it was touching the metal. And then eventually the water from the rain got to it, and that was what did it. And then that electricity backfed through the system and took out the hardscape lights.
So
odd.
One thing that we did learn from this is important is if you do that kind of under lighting, under steps or underneath walls, is to make sure that your lighting has where you can replace just the bulb itself and not the whole component.
Yeah, because come to find out, most of it, and most landscapers are installing that type of unit. So that's a tip for you, is that to ask those questions is what you're installing underneath your cap or in your stone, is that where I can replace the bulb, or does the whole unit have to be replaced? Because most of them going out are those types.
Yeah.
Which
we didn't know that beforehand. Live and learn around here, folks. Moving on to Miss Rebecca. She asked, do the Decadence dark chocolate baptisia need to be cut down to the ground in the fall? And then would you mulch over the top of them for winter? Thank you. So it's a great question. All the baptisia are basically you're going to treat the same. I wait until I get a hard freeze, and then all of that foliage has been burned by the freeze, and then I cut it to the ground. Not exactly to the ground. I may leave 3 or 4 inches above the ground. Basically, you're just giving it a flat top and you're just going to cut it. I don't like to take mulch per se and put directly on top of the crown of the perennial. You want to go up more around it, because over time, if you're constantly adding, like over seasons of time, and you're adding mulch on top of it or you're adding compost on top of it, that of course is going to retain moisture, and our winters are very wet, and so that kind of could encourage some crown rot, in which you don't want in your perennials. Baptisia are very cold tolerant. I think they're like zones 4 to 9. We're a zone 7, so I never have to worry about it getting too cold for us in the winter. That would actually kill my baptisia. If you're in a zone 4, then you might want to mulch it a little heavier. Of course, if you have snow acts as an insulator, so that would work in your favor. But yes, you just want to cut those down to the ground. And with most of those perennials, if I dare say just about all perennials, I'm sure there's an exception to the rule, but once the freeze hits and kills off your foliage, you can go ahead and cut that back down to the ground. I know even like with perennial grasses, of course, they'll be brown. You can go ahead and cut them down, but some people will leave those in the winter. For winter interest, yeah. But it's not going to hurt the plant to go ahead and do that. Next question is from Janice. What did you use for the edging on the pathway? It looks like metal.
Yes,
it is.
It's metal edging.
It is metal edging, and we are not big users of metal edging in normal circumstances, but this was the perfect place to use it because the pathway, once again, has that fine decorative gravel, and it's right up next to mulch, and we needed to have a physical barrier between the mulch and the gravel so that they just didn't make a hot mess and get all in there together. We could have used like a raised, like a paver, and done that, and that was our original intention, was that we were going to have like raised block kind of pavers.
Yeah, we thought about that, and then we were
around the
actually
edge.
we were going to do a paver walkway, and then we just said, nah. I think we wanted to kind of switch it up after we had the patio pavers already.
We did.
Yeah,
and we were tired.
Yeah, and that works really nice, and it looks great. The tip is go to a local landscape supply. Don't go to the big box stores to buy the metal edging. The metal edging there is like a cheap, thinner version. You want to go to like a local landscape supply, like a Site One in our area, or there are other, small businesses that have that.
Yeah, but a
good
professional landscape supply company.
Yeah.
And just ask for their brown. Well, we did brown.
stuff. We did. I think black, brown, green.
Yeah, they come in different colors, but the difference is the thickness of the metal, which over time, I mean, this will last for years and years and years.
It will.
So that is what we used. We did a video on it. I will link that down in the description below as well. Nicole says, front porch question. What is the best/easiest way to keep grass away from a tree that is planted amongst the lawn? The grass in the south can be very hard to tame during the summer, and I was wondering how to do that without damaging the tree roots. So the way that I do it is, because we have several trees within our lawn, and I guess too it would kind of depend on what kind of grass you have. We have fescue, so fescue is a little bit easier.
It sounds like she's got the creeping.
Right, because fescue's not a creeper, but like Bermuda and zoysia, those are creepers, and they send out runners. Centipede. Those can be kind of pesky because they do send out the runners. But regardless of what kind of grass you have, I would recommend waiting till like after you get a rain. That way the soil is a little bit more loose. Go out there, determine what you want your perimeter around your tree to be. I would go ahead and you can use a shovel. They actually have like edging shovels. They're like a flat edging shovel. And just kind of cut the grass around in the circle or the shape that you want. And then basically you're just going to kind of have to get in there and hand pull it. That's why I say do it after a rain. This is how I do it because, like I said, that's what we have. Just go in there and hand pull it, and then you want to add a nice thick layer of mulch around there. Again, that'll help the weeds or anything from going in there. And then you can easily maintain that edge between your grass and your mulch, like with your weed eater. So if you can go out there on a somewhat of a regular basis and kind of keep an eye on it.
Keeps it out, maintenance.
Right. And you can, if it's a well-established tree, you can carefully spray an herbicide.
You can.
To kill the grass. There's both organic and non-organic methods to do that.
Correct.
But you could do that. Cindy says, what is the difference between Tough Stuff AHA and just Tough Stuff hydrangeas? I can't really tell from the description on the Proven Winner site. I just purchased the AHA last night from Home Depot and want to make sure I'm planting the correct one for my garden. Thank you.
Yeah, I like AHA.
Yeah, this is an excellent question because even I was like, what in the world is the difference between these two hydrangeas? Because yes, if you look at the description and compare them on the Proven Winners website, it's very hard to figure out what the difference is. So I was talking to our sales rep, Terry from Spring Meadow, home of the Proven Winner shrubs, and I was asking her. And so she said that basically AHA is going to be a more prolific rebloomer, and it has a double floret on it so that when it is blooming that it appears to be a bigger, fuller bloom. So that's the main difference. AHA, more prolific rebloomer, and the double floret.
It does really look bigger. That's
right.
very pretty.
It's a very pretty, and you got AHA, so excellent job on that.
Yep.
I think you made a wise choice.
Yep.
So that's a good one. Excellent. Pam says, I love your videos. I found you through Laura from Garden Answer. Question. I want to plant a drift of salvias and have narrowed it down to 2 varieties, Playing the Blues and Indiglo Girl. Which variety will give me the biggest and best blooms that have the longest bloom time? Thank you, Pam. So I know that I have my personal opinion on this, but before we even kind of get into it, let's make sure that we know the distinction that Indiglo Girl is going to be a perennial and that Playing the Blues is going to be an annual. So you're looking at those 2 options. So depending if you want to go the perennial route or the annual route. I have both of these in the garden. I will say that without a doubt, hands down, my favorite salvias are those annual salvias from Proven Winners. The Rockin' series, where there's deep purple, blue suede shoes, fuchsia. There's going to be an unplugged pink that's going to be next year. And then new for me this year is Playing the Blues. They're simply amazing. They are absolute showstoppers, huge performers. They bloom nonstop from the time you put them in the ground till the time we get a freeze. Now, again, we're zone 7B. Not even close to being a perennial for us, according to the tag. But by a happy accident one year, I honestly was just too lazy to pull the whole plant out of the ground. And so I just cut it back down to the ground thinking, well, it's an annual. When I come back to plant next year, it'll be dead. Well, no, it wasn't. So a tip, if you would like to try it, of course, we still sell these as annuals, but that if you cut it back and then you just mulch as regular around it, for us, it has always come back and done just amazingly well. But I like, out of all the perennial salvias, I like Indiglo Girl the best.
Back to Fuchsia is good.
Back to Fuchsia is good. But if you had to say, Jenny, you can only have one series of salvias in your yard, would it be these perennial salvias or the annuals? Without a doubt, I would go the annual route every time.
Yeah, flower power all the time.
It is absolutely gorgeous. Next question comes from Miss Barbara. What can I do for black spot on my roses? I've tried neem oil and it doesn't seem to work. Please help. Great question. A question we get all the time. This year has been my first year growing roses. I've kind of brought y'all along the whole journey with me. We have David Austin roses that I ordered just directly from them. And then we do have the Atlas rose from Proven Winners back here in the patio area. By no means am I a rose expert, but I'm happy to share with you what I've done this year. Angie and Ambrose from Garden Obsessions they just do gorgeous roses in Virginia. So they have a lot of experience. I've learned a lot from them. They've been great for me. They recommended this Bio Advance, the 3-in-1 rose and flower care. That's all I've used, and it has worked amazingly well. It can come in a spray, like you can mix it up and put it in the sprayer and spray the roses, or it comes in granular form, which I like just because it's easy, and you can put a capful around the base of the plant. According to the directions, it says every 6 weeks. But talking to Ambrose, he said because of our hot, humid nights here in the South that he had found that every 4 weeks was the best. So it's a 3-in-1 because it is a fertilizer, so it provides the food. It is a fungicide and prevents the black spot, the powdery mildew, and a couple of other things. And it's also a pesticide, so that it's a systemic, so Japanese beetles, it keeps them away. Any kind of I think it's the sawtooth caterpillar, any kind of little caterpillar, worm, aphids, perfect. It keeps all of those away. And they are gorgeous. They've been beautiful. The only time that I ever had an issue was when I was a little delayed and I forgot to reapply it and the Japanese beetle started to get on it. But once I reapplied, and they were okay doing that. But that has been, for me, just a really great product to use. And we have it linked in our Amazon store, so you can go there and purchase it from Amazon. Then Miss Sally Smith, I do love that name, Sally Smith. She says, what type of mulch do you use in your beds and how often do you have to replace it? I have used pine straw here in Georgia, but it gets expensive because I have to replace it a few times a year.
So yeah, I mean, you gotta do pine needles twice a year,
At a minimum.
spring and fall at a minimum, sometimes more depending on the situation. Mulch is by far better, so even if you spend the same amount of money, you're getting more for your money because you're only applying mulch one time a year, and you get more for your money because you get as I had mentioned earlier, it starts to break down and creates topsoil. The pine needles don't really do that. They just sort of kind of decay and go away. So I would go with mulch, and there's several different products. We use a hardwood dyed mulch. It's brown. You can get just pine bark. It's like soil conditioner almost, and you can do.
Well, we've done a couple. We have two that we kind of go back and forth on.
Yeah.
One is a double hammered hardwood mulch that once it's laid down will form almost like a mat. And so we like using that on steep places or hills because it doesn't wash. So when you get a good rain, it doesn't create those like little rivers in there. So that works really well. And then we've also used one that's been made from like reclaimed hardwood pallets. That's a little bit, it's lighter, so it's easier to put out, but
tends to hold the color better just because it soaks the dye in, but it does wash.
Yeah, so if you have a nice flat spot, then that's a great option to use. We had that in the front of the house for quite a while, and it did really well. So yeah, hardwood mulch. There you go. Tammy says, hello, love your channel. Question for Front Porch Chat. I live in Zone 7A. What would be a good time to plant a sweet olive tree? Thank you. Happy gardening.
Right now.
Right now, all the way through winter.
Yeah,
Depends on,
Depends on the winter.
Depends on your winter, but for us, easily through November would be a great time to do it. Just the one thing that I would caution you with as far as a tea olive or a sweet olive, it's a sweet osmanthus. It just depends on different regions. We'll call them different things. As a general rule, they are hardy in zones 7 to 10. And you're right on the border of being a little too cool for them, just like we are. So when we planted them in the hottest spot in our garden. So our first round of them is just right off the front porch, which is kind of a west-facing side of the house, but it has a really high foundation right there that is brick. So you'll be fine in the summertime. Don't worry about the summer. What you're concerned about more is the winter and your cold nights. But for us, that brick wall acts as like radiant heat during the night because it's soaked up that nice warm temperatures from the sun during the day, and then at night it radiates the heat off. So I would say just find the warmest spot of your garden and plant it there, but go for it. You will love the smell of them. They're so easy and low maintenance and pretty and just smell divine.
They do.
They do. Linda says, your patio area is awesome, so beautiful.
Thank you.
So now it's almost completed. Is there another project on the way, or are you done for now?
Well, we're never done.
Linda, we're never done.
Projects. I mean, we're always going to be doing something. That's what we were talking about the other day. Is just, maybe not to this size of project. You got to. I mean, when we were doing this project, we were building a greenhouse at the same time.
And we had a lot of projects going on at one time.
Yeah, and we do want to try to kind of limit that as best as possible, but we do have a big project coming up. We are going to. This has been on the books for 2 years. The 2 small Quonset greenhouses that you see in the videos that are close to the barn, it's kind of where all the shopping area is. Those are coming down. We're going to maybe sell one and maybe take the other one and use it as just a cold frame for shrubs or something like that. This one here is going to be a 48 by 48, nice and tall, A-frame, gutter connected, so the space, you can walk through the space real easily in shopping. It'll be really tall, give plenty of room for folks to walk around and shop during the spring, early spring, when we don't need to be transferring certain plants in and out of the greenhouse, because we start selling in March, at the end of March, but we still have a chance of frost in there, but people like to come and buy their annuals early, so that way they get what they want. So this will help with that. Plus it'll be really super nice.
What's the good news about this new
The good
project?
news is, yeah, we're going to pay a contracting crew to come in and put it up. We still have a good bit of work to do with it. We've got to move some plumbing, redo the fertigation system, build a little structure that goes in behind the greenhouse that houses all the plumbing and fertigation system.
All the stuff that customers don't really want to see.
Yeah, so that won't be so bad, but we'll still have a little bit of work to do to get it up and going.
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's going to happen here pretty quick. We've already started the process of taking things apart. We took down our wall that we have for hanging baskets, and we'll start. I think Emily was in there the other day taking out drip lines.
There you go. So yes, so whole new greenhouse coming to the shopping area.
Yeah, it's going to last like 12 years of no maintenance or something is what he said.
Sounds fantastic.
It's not the double poly plastic, it's a polycarbonate. It's like a sheeting of plastic solid. So that's part of the reason.
It's going to be a totally different look.
Yeah.
Yeah, a totally different look. But when Jerry came to me and was like, I think maybe this might be a good season to do it. And I was like, yeah, go for it. And he got a quote and he came back and he said, okay, this is the price of it. And I said, well, does that include installation? And he said, no. And I was like, well, go back. Find out how much it costs to install it, because we built 2 massive greenhouses in 2 winters, and Mama's done with that. All right. Here comes a question from Mrs. Handy RU. She says, Jenny, how did you and your precious Jerry meet? Was it love at first sight? Mm-hmm. Our 40th is in October. We found you through Laura and Aaron. We live near Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Zone 5B.
Yeah, we like Portsmouth.
I was to say, first of all, we love where you live. When we went to Pleasant View, we got, I think, was it 2 hours we were in Portsmouth?
I guess it was fast and furious.
But it was one of those last minute, we had a couple of hours to spare, and one of the fellas at Pleasant View was like, oh yeah, y'all need to go down to Portsmouth. All I needed to hear was, it's on the ocean and beside of Maine. And I was like, sign me up, we are going.
Yeah, that's
get in the car.
Maine lobster, and it was really good.
We did. Oh, so first of all, we love your area and are very excited to quickly, hopefully, go back and take the kids and explore truly in depth, because it was just, it's gorgeous. But to answer your original question, Jerry and I were both lifeguards at a city pool when, in our much younger years. I was 16 when we met, and it was not love at first sight. Friendship quickly developed.
Oh yeah.
So to give you kind of a timeline, I don't know what the pool may have opened. Memorial weekend?
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend, and our first date was July 4th.
July 4th.
So there you go. Yeah. So it was, pretty quickly.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty quick. And then we've been married 22 years. Mm-hmm. Right? It is 20. What year is this?
I know 2020 has messed up everybody's brain, but it's 2021.
Oh, so it's 2021, so it's 21 years.
And then we're also looking at like 2022 planning.
Right.
So we're all over the place.
Yeah. I know we got married in 2000, so that I know.
And do you feel like you've been living like 3 years in a 1 year?
Yeah, I just don't even know what year it is right now. I know when we got married. I just don't know what the time is right now.
Oh my gosh, I haven't even processed 2021
we saw that
2020.
Meme. Wouldn't it be hilarious? We find that meme, that you showed me?
Yes.
Where it was 2 runners, and the one guy was like, he was in the front, and he was dying. He was struggling, and it said, me trying to process 2020. And then there was a guy coming behind him, a sprinter, all fresh and new, and it said 2022. Oh my gosh, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. Time is just moving by so fast. Okay. We digress, but here we go. Ivy Bend Garden. My question. In your last chat on the back porch, what are the flowers growing in the container between your 2 chairs? The selection is gorgeous. Thank you. This proves that you do not have to be complicated and tons of flowers to be gorgeous, attractive, and eye-catching.
Easy plants to grow.
So easy. So we'll start with the first one. The green is just your regular generic asparagus fern. This is one of the long-time staple, easy, extremely drought-tolerant plant. They actually have in their roots these like white nodules that hold the water. This makes a gorgeous hanging basket. One of my favorites is asparagus fern and like diamond frost. That's beautiful. So that's in there. And then the real showstopper though is this is Hot Flash Caladium. Classic Caladium sent us this massive box of plants to try out this year. This is one of them. Hot Flash is just a gorgeous caladium that can do sun or shade. Of course, it has those nice deep red centers with the green edging and a little bit of that veining in it. It will be available next year as a Proven Winners caladium. So they are going to be introducing it into their line next year. Love this plant. And not only are the centers red, but the actual stems are red also.
And I would say two very underused plants for gardeners. I mean, they're very easy care plants, especially, and this is a great way to add color to your landscape without flowers.
Yes.
And you know, that's the ones that Proven Winners is coming out with. I mean, most of them are sun or shade. It gives you options in your landscape, on your planters, patios, hanging baskets.
Because there's no bugs like either one of these plants. So Japanese beetles don't like them. We've never had an issue with like any kind of caterpillars, worms chewing on them. Not even slugs we don't have an issue with that because we have caladiums in containers and hanging baskets and in the landscape.
Yep.
I'm telling you folks, if you don't use caladiums, you need to. And this is not part of the questions, but I'll just, while we're talking about it, somebody said that they got caladiums from us in the mail, like they ordered them from us, and they didn't take off until August. And so she was asking why that was, and I said, well, depends on where you live. That caladiums thrive in the heat and humidity. It's one of the few plants that like performs better in the south. Yeah. And so I said, depending on your climate, maybe they just didn't take off until it got hot enough. And she said, oh, that makes sense. We don't get real high temperatures and humidity until end of July and the 1st of August.
There you go.
There you go. There you go. All right. This next question is from my sweet friend Jeanette, the enthusiastic gardener who lives across the pond. She says, looks just beautiful, Jenny, particularly the view of the new pathway and borders behind you when you're standing by the big urn explaining about the drooping grass. My question is, at one time, I believe you said you were going to add a water feature. Are you still planning on doing that, as I think it would look just beautiful? I'm also looking forward to seeing your visit to Laura and Aaron. Much love, Jeanette. So yes, we are planning on turning that unique stone pot into a fountain. That was on the very long list of things to do.
It was.
It did not get done for the party that we had.
I had a lot of stuff to get ordered, and there was a couple times I couldn't find it. And
yes, so that was, so what we did, you may have remembered that we were hosting this big party for our sweet friends Rylan and Mary Claire, who are getting married in October. That party was a massive success, by the way, had about 50 plus people here. But the weather was perfect and everything looked great. But for that pot, the fountain didn't get done, but everybody had to come right past it to come into the party. And you know, Jenny wanted to make it look just so. So my mama and I fake planted the container. So we went over to the nursery and grabbed a crepe myrtle that was in a 15-gallon container, put it in the bottom, didn't plant it, we just put the container and everything inside the unique stone pot, and then we thought maybe some perennial grasses around it. We tried that didn't work. So then we went and grabbed a ton of gallon-sized chocolate drop coleus and just literally propped them up against the lip of the container and the lip of the crepe myrtle pot. And so it's completely fake planted, but it turned out really pretty.
Yeah, it's really great. I like it.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking though probably spring we'll get the fountain done, because
Probably
by the
so.
time we order all the parts and get it up and running, it'll be time to shut it down for the winter. So
Yeah, just wait the spring.
we're just going to wait on that one. All right, next question. Sliding over here, which also kind of piggybacks off Jeanette's question. This is from my sweet friend Cassandra. She says, "Hey Jenny, question. I heard Laura and Aaron say that you and Jerry are going out there to help them with putting up a greenhouse. Are you able to share any further info on this? I am beyond excited to have both my favorite garden channels collaborating."
Awesome.
So yes,
Yep.
we are going out to Oregon the end of this month, the end of September. We'll be staying with them for several days. And the main project that we're going to be tackling is taking their cold frame greenhouse, slightly demoing it in the fact that we're going to put a double layer of poly on it. So she'll have a nice insulation in there, installing a heater. Of course, with the double poly, you have to install a blower to inflate it. So we'll have all that. And then they want to install the roll-up sides that are controlled by the thermostat like we have on our new production greenhouse. That way in the summertime, it's a lot easier for them to control their temperatures. So that is what we will be doing at the end of this month. Jerry and I are headed out there and super excited to go hang out with them for a couple of days.
Yeah, super excited.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll have videos that come from that. Laura and Aaron, of course, will have videos. We'll have something from it. So it'll be fun times for sure, and we will keep you updated on that whole process. But yes, Southern Jenny meets Western Midwest Laura. I don't know. 7B meets 5B.
Yeah, there's a lot there to 5B
North
over
Carolina.
there.
High desert.
High desert, North Carolina, hot and humid.
Extreme humidity, dry air. I tell you, of course, we're obviously excited to meet Laura and Aaron,
Yeah.
but I'm really excited about that weather. I keep watching that weather, and I'm like, look at that dew point. It's in the 20s. We're in the 70s. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All right. Rachel has a question. She says, this has probably been answered many times, but what is the bluish rose of Sharon you have planted? Is that a blue chiffon? It is so pretty. Yes. That is just right over here. It is a blue chiffon. That's what they call a standard, which means it's just been trained to be like in a tree form.
Tree form topiary.
Tree form topiary. We got that from another nursery wholesale supplier that we get some things from. So it was already in that form when we got it. It has done amazingly well. I mean, it has.
I got to say, this is the proven winner one. You know, because it's
the blue chiffon is from Proven Winners.
And then we picked up a couple of other ones that
Non-branded.
were non-branded, and the things that still have not flowered yet really well. I have been disappointed in that.
Yeah, the other one has just not performed at all. But this thing, once it started blooming, it has not stopped blooming.
Just going on and on. So to say that, even all of those, the chiffon series, they're prolific bloomers once we get to summertime. I mean, it is bloom, bloom, bloom.
And they're not invasive.
You cannot go wrong. No, they're not invasive.
Because I know that some people deal with roses of Sharon being invasive. These are not. They have very, very little seed set. We have never had an issue, but they're not. I don't think roses of Sharon are considered invasive for us, but something about with the way that the petal is shaped that they have very little seed set on that.
Yeah, I've never seen them do any of that kind of stuff here.
Yep. All right. John has a question. Hi, Jenny and Jerry. The patio looks great.
Thank you.
Question for the chat. What would you suggest as a type of cage to use for Zinfandel hydrangea to add in reducing floppiness? Purchased and planted in June, and they were in strong bloom when planted. So, this is what I would suggest to you. And when we were at Spring Meadow talking with their head breeder, plant developer, Judson, I asked him just to get his opinion, and his opinion was the exact same as mine, so I felt really good about this. So Zinfandel is a type of panicle, which means it blooms on new growth. You're not going to need a cage for it. what you need to start practicing, I know you just got it, is proper pruning. So what that means is if it's really heavy with blooms right now and it's flopping over, I would recommend to go ahead and cut those blooms off to get the weight off of the limbs, make a beautiful bouquet and give it to a lady in your life. She will love you for it. But the real proper time to do some like good pruning on your panicle hydrangeas, which you should do every year, is going to be late winter, early spring. So for us, that means about mid to late February. What you want to do is cut it back by no more than 1/3 to 1/4 the size of the plant. So when I asked Judson this, I didn't preface it that way. I said, how much should you prune a panicle if it's floppy? And those were his exact words, 1/3 to 1/4. Because if you constantly cut the plant down really severe by like a half or more every single time, you never give those bottom branches time to get really nice and thick and woody and strong and sturdy. So every time you're cutting it really severe and far down, it just weakens the stems. Yep. So if you only cut it back by a third or a fourth, he gave a term for it. You know, he's the PhD. I forget. I don't remember. But basically, there's a scientific word for those limbs. When the wind's hitting them and they're moving around, it strengthens those limbs. So you want them to be nice and strong. If they are flopping, you'll have some floppage just because you have a massive bloom, especially after a rainstorm. If they don't perk up, just cut them and make a flower arrangement.
Yeah, if you start that process early on, like if you get a real floppy one and you want to take it in for an arrangement, the chances are it's going to rebloom.
Right.
So don't be scared to take them off.
Don't be scared to take them off. You'll just get another flush of blooms in late summer, early fall, and those are beautiful. In fact, because we were doing that with the what do we have? Incrediballs right here. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that they'll bloom again. Maybe. They might. They're covered in new growth. They're covered in new growth, so we will see. But yeah, panicles, those new growth hydrangeas, only a third to a fourth. And I think that's all the questions that we have time for today.
Very good.
Yes. So we will keep you updated on all the shenanigans here at the nursery and in life in general. Of course, we will keep you updated on our trip out west to go see Laura and Aaron. We'll do a lot of, when we go on these trips, if you follow us, if you don't follow us on Instagram or Facebook, I have the links in the video description. So go there and follow us there, because I do a lot of stories, and so that's a lot of the behind the scenes, real-time things that are happening. So in our trip out west to Oregon, I will definitely be posting in the stories, so you can kind of keep up with our trip then. But yes, that will be the end of this month. But as always, thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.
See you.